Martin, very kind of you to join. Very nice to see you again. We see each other from time to time. Your conference each year in Dublin is getting better and better and bigger, so congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the healthy longevity field.
Thanks, Richard. Lovely to talk to you. So I think curiosity is the main answer to that. In about 2008, I encountered some discussions on this online, and excuse me, in 2010, I attended a conference in London, and I listened to a few speakers there that were speaking on equating diseases with the aging process and how fighting one is fighting the other, and it resonated with me pretty deeply at that moment. So it was a very, very small field. There were a number of academics scattered around the world, and then there was literally a handful of enthusiasts, of which I became one, and we tried to advocate a little bit for more funding, more research. And yeah, it's been interesting over that 17-year period how through a series of kind of, exponential bursts, it's become the hot topic that it is today.
Yeah, the rest is history. I've observed the same rough period of time, how the field has both swollen in size, but also become more mainstream. Very interesting. Yeah. And as you know, I've focused recently on some of the unsolved problems, what I call the wicked issues of healthy longevity. And I thought one that we might talk about is the need for biomarkers. Biomarkers of aging, predictive biomarkers of future chronic disease. And I know this is something you've been giving some thought to. So I wonder if you could kind of characterize for us where that stands today as you see it.
Well, from my amateur non-scientific perspective, I know that some of the thoughts over the last decade or so were that if we were to gain, effective anti-aging therapies, how would we show their impact? And so finding surrogates, finding biomarkers that could be easily tested and that might be approved by the FDA at some stage, where it looked at multiple endpoints or maybe even generally aging as something that pharmaceutical companies should pursue. There was a search for these, stand-ins for the aging process. And so there was a lot of work in epigenetic mark clocks, which mapped with the aging process and the process of decline. And there's been generations of those and lots of debate and interest around them. And I think for those reasons, in terms of short-term measurability of impact, that's a very valuable avenue. I'm extremely fortunate to be involved in an organization that's just about coming to market now called ALICE, Applied Longevity Intelligence Services. And part of the reason I'm so fortunate is because we work with a group of people in Singapore that have developed a clock. So Jan Gruber and Feng Xing and Brian Kennedy, that is much more on the clinical side of, its basis is things that you can get from your local GP or family practitioner, be it, the blood panel, obviously, but even things like VO2 max and grip strength and these more functional assessments of aging. And those have a very, very strong correlation with mortality risk. And interventions that improve those, I suppose, at a simple level, are making you healthier. And it's a way of assessing that, their deep analysis is showing is quite strong and quite accurate. And so we have different approaches as to how we can get a handle on how people are performing against their chronological age. But it's a fascinating field, and there's lots more to go and to learn in it.
Yeah, no, you've mentioned 2 or 3 things that I think might be worth spending a moment on. One is the epigenetic clocks, whether there's so many of them, which one to pick, are they reliable, do they tell you anything? functional markers. Could they predict a particular disease, or do they just tell you how you're doing? And a whole range of metabolomic, proteomic markers that could be maybe more precise with regard to what's going on in your body, and what you might be able to intervene with. I mean, do you see all of these in the frame? Do you see some are going to be more important than others?
Yeah, well, you would like to think that it can be cumulative. We have, ever expanding computational capacity now, and so it shouldn't be that difficult to gather as much data on an individual as possible. And your percentage of accuracy should increase. I mean, if it's decreasing, then what you're testing isn't really of use. And yeah, it could be the proteomics is an under researched area. I think that the functional testing is very important as well, and it does give a very accurate reading, like you say, a prediction of mortality or prediction of certain areas of biology that are at risk and that are going wrong. I know that again, the work that I referred to a while ago, that's like many others, it's trained on huge data sets from places like NHANES and the UK Biobank and so on. So they're looking at 40, 50 years of records of people that have similar biology to you or I, and what happened as the years went by for those people, and using again computational capacity to train on those. So I would think it is cumulative in terms of if you want to look at someone's health and assess it and see if it's improving. If it is purely for drug discovery, then maybe it's different.
Yeah, I think there are those two different settings, or there are several settings, but the two that I think you're mentioning, one is we as individuals, what we're doing, and do we think it's doing us good, if I can put it in the broadest sense of the word, and reducing the all-cause mortality. But the other is for more like the regulatory authorities, who if we're going to say, we have measured this aging process, it has slowed down, but importantly, here are the diseases that this individual is less likely to get or will get later in life, and so on. They seem to me to be two different applications. Am I right, or would you disagree?
No, they seem to be, yeah, definitely. And you're looking for the easiest surrogate in the second one, right? That's more kind of easily applied by a body like the FDA or the EMA or whatever it is. But I think it's all a gathering of the public's interest in staying healthy. And so the traditional model of doing a disease-specific drug development is being challenged somewhat with, I know the TAME trial, Metformin trial was a multiple
Metformin, yes.
Yeah, so but they were not looking at a specific disease, they were looking at multiple endpoints. And so that's an indication. If that trial ever took place, it would be a real proof of principle for pharmaceuticals. So, I mean, you and I meet each other at longevity conferences, and they're great, but they're sparsely populated by pharma executives. And so for, a real paradigm shift would be for pharmaceutical companies to see this as an avenue where they can target the delay of multiple diseases at the same time. And then I think the financial setting shifts almost completely. So yeah, that's why I think the biomarkers are of such interest, because the pharmaceutical companies will need something to go to the regulatory authorities to say, this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to measure it.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the first time, right? So we have preventative drugs, antihypertensives, anti-lipid, anti-diabetes, notably the GLP-1 receptor agonists, that have gone through that process, and I think the pharmaceutical industry are proud of. But I think you've just suggested a very interesting biomarker for this whole field, which is how quickly the pharma companies sort of wake up to it. I just came back from the JP Morgan healthcare conference in San Francisco Not a lot of discussion of this topic amongst the big pharma companies, I have to say. I did attend a small longevity session, but it was the kind of people that you and I meet at the longevity conferences, Lithgow from Buck and so on. So I think there's still a bridge to be crossed here. So tell us a little bit more about what Alice is going to do and who it's principally going to be serving.
Thanks. So yeah, it's a B2B model where, excuse me, we will go to healthcare providers or anyone who really wants to provide a longevity service to their clients. On the back end, we will provide a means to assess those clients' biological data in really pretty profound detail, from a clock basis, but also from a predictive tool that will take a very deep look at what is likely to occur to this person in the coming 2 years or so. No, look, I mean, you could ask someone their star sign and then you could tell them what you think is going to happen to them in 2 years' time, you know. So having a predictive tool is easy to do, but the depth of analysis that's involved in this is pretty profound. And I think when we're trying to express the usefulness of this, it's the quality of the people involved, really, that show that this is something that people can trust. We have some of the best scientists in aging and some of the best medics in aging. And so we're excited to bring this to hospitals, to physicians, to, you know, wellness providers, anyone that wants to offer a longevity service, and that can take any sort of biological assessment from the individual. That individual's data is analyzed, and then there is feedback given on the individual as well as information around different interventions. And then it becomes, you know, it's between our client and that client's client to decide what they're going to do in terms of trying to optimize. Like, I think that the core is you want to optimize your current, but also your future health. So it's what can I do now that will put me in the best possible position in 10, 15, 20 years' time. And I think that's part of, like, an awful lot of the AI analysis and everything that's out there at the moment is focused on disease, which is, you know, obviously very useful. But the general resilience of an individual, and also, I suppose, the resilience and issues in different organ systems, is something that should be of great interest to people.
So you're not going to give them, excuse me for interrupting me, you're not going to just give them a table of, you know, what's normal, what's abnormal, and so on. You're going to go down to the organ level and saying, you know, what's the state or status and trajectory in that organ, and also here's what you might be able to do about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So the reason we founded Alice is just contemplating. You know, there's a group of us involved in this that are similar age-ish, and we're thinking, we know what we can do right now. Doesn't mean we always do it, but we have a good idea of what we can do. But we don't really know, as time goes by, for us specifically, for us uniquely, what the best path is to take. And I think, as well as this obsession that has thankfully started, where people are really focused on their health now, as this evolves, I think, that there will come a time as well where people want to be informed and then given choices as to what level of intervention they want to take. Because as your age changes, the risk-benefit dynamic changes somewhat as well, right? And so while we won't be recommending anything, we're a source of information on all of the different interventions that are available. And look, 99% of that, 90 whatever percent of it is definitely focused on lifestyle interventions. But I think people need to be informed so that they can look at themselves at whatever age they pick. Let's say they're 50 or something, and they want to build a plan for the next 20 or 30 years that is low risk initially, and then maybe they want to increase the risk somewhat as the years go by, and also, of course, as the interventions improve.
I got a good example of that yesterday. There was a radio program talking about how do you boost your immune system. And these experts were kind of dismissing this, dismissing that. The only thing that seemed to come through was cold water swimming. I thought to myself, this is not for everybody. Right? It'll be individual choice. Here's how you can improve 100%. Your resilience doing this, doing this, doing this. It's up to you really how extreme you ought to be.
Exactly, individual choice and individual biology a little bit as well. You know, like a lot of stuff that applies to almost all the population, like exercise, diet, etc. But there may be tweaks in that you know, it's not impossible that something that is healthy for 90% of the population actually isn't healthy for you. That there's some sort of mineral deficiency or something that you should eradicate first, and then we look at the general applications. So I think. One of the things, and even with these very famous, you know, millionaires that are spending all this money testing them and so on.
Can't imagine who you're thinking about. Carry on.
Yeah, but I think there's a number of valuable messages from it, even if there are others that are, you know, can be questioned. But certainly the testing is valuable. That you test, you intervene, then you test again, you intervene again. You know, that it shouldn't really be a shot in the dark.
Right. Give you a means to track the effectiveness of whatever it is you're doing or taking. So where do you see the company in 12 months' time?
I want this facility to be available to as many people as possible. I know that's a stock answer, but I don't see, because this is, you know, a software platform, there isn't really a limit to the data that can be gathered and used. And so I think we can also make a contribution to the field in terms of understanding interventions as well. So we hope to have, you know, hundreds of thousands of users, and no, not our direct clients, but our clients' clients, and maybe millions. And what can be learned from that is you get cohorts of people that are similar. And some are taking lifestyle interventions, some are taking maybe repurposed medicines, some are doing something more advanced than that even. And we can draw comparisons. We have a pool of data that we can learn from. So it's giving people access, you know, to offering their clients a way to optimize their current and future health. But it's also, I hope it will be a point where the field can move forward as well and learn from what humans are doing and what impact it's having on those humans.
And I hope so too. So congratulations, not just on your wonderful conferences, but on your new company. And we look forward to the accumulation of data and wisdom and insight from that. We combine the power of AI that both you and I can see the opportunity for. So Martin, thank you very much for your time. We could talk about this for a long time, but it's great to catch up. And as I say, congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you.